We come every 8 days, sometimes every 15 days. We take turns. But we left for the holidays, and that's why it's kind of a mess, because we all went on vacation. Because it's all work and the farm and work and farm, and then the weekend comes and we're disconnected from everything. We need a break. We left for almost a month, and of course we checked our phones regularly, and sometimes my husband came and left whatever was needed here and would go back. We wouldn't stay here, but we're here again, back to working hard, because we need to start planting.
Gracias. You're listening to the Coffee Podcast. I'm so glad I'm recording. Last episode, I introduced you to a few people I met in Guatemala during the Roaster Producer Forum. As a quick overview, there was Mike and Corey from Little Owl Coffee out of Colorado, Mafe and Nino with Tucel Tostadores from Barcelona, Spain, Hugo and Marta with The Fix in Madrid, Spain, and of course, Ivan Herrera, the coffee producer, hosting all of us for the week. We left off visiting a coffee mill. That's where the turkey comes in, by the way. It was not a totally random audio clip, I swear. Now, before I jump into the final chapter of our journey through the Roaster Producer Forum in Guatemala, I want to mention something that is important to me as a creator and a coffee podcast guy. It was my intention to interview Yvonne, her mother, and her abuela for an episode, but the night I was planning to do that, I got very ill. I wasn't able to capture that time later, and I left the trip with a sort of hole in my podcaster heart. I was really disappointed because I wanted you to feel the culture of family these three shared with us during my trip. While I missed that boat, there's another very important conversation I'm sharing on the podcast in this episode. We talk about coffee price, and we all realize this is a serious issue for the entire chain, but especially for coffee producers and laborers. It's sort of easy to be downstream of the producers and talk about the problem as if it's just some really difficult math problem to solve. It's almost too easy to forget the souls at the farm being affected. I want to encourage you to deeply consider what's said by Yvonne on this episode. But before we hear from Yvonne, let's hop on over to the forum. You might notice we run into a few familiar voices. For example, Henry of Perfect Daily Grind, last seen on our podcast in episode 131, while he introduces the forum with a short speech.
I'd like to particularly thank Myoga Organics, the gold sponsor of the event, for committing and supporting it, and also for financing the accommodation and food of 30 scholars to ensure that we can involve all producers from across the supply chain in this event, and also all of the other sponsors.
It's not too long after Henry introduces the forum and sponsors that we hear a surprisingly important fact about Guatemalan coffees for us to consider. Listen to this.
Coffee is basically the second largest agro-industrial product that generates income for the country. And it's been stated throughout the years that depending on the price, this is something that we kind of go back and forth with sugar. So even is it sugar or coffee, but we're always first or second generating income for our country. And why is this? Basically because also coffee generates more than 500,000 employments each year. So it's a very important injection, economically injected situation for our country. All the quality and all the process of coffee throughout Guatemala.
We're going to cover the coffee price crisis much deeper in our next podcast series, releasing in late September. But for now, I want to take a quick tour through a topic Alejandro of Anna Cafe brought up during his presentation at the forum. It really stuck out to me.
I'm going to read you a quote by a very interesting research paper, The Powerful Role of Intangibles in the Coffee Value Chain. Currently, the average green coffee export value is less than 10% of the $200 billion revenues generated in the coffee retail market. This imbalance illustrates the pressing need for transparency of transactions in order to achieve redistribution. So let's take a second, let's let that sink in.
I had a chance to corner Alejandro later and sort of get a quick overview of the discussion he had up on the stage.
Your talk that you gave yesterday on the market and understanding the C market and kind of where things are and where things need to move to, I thought was really compelling. What is the main takeaway, do you feel, from that talk?
Thank you very much. First of all, we have some really prominent coffee farmers here in Guatemala, and the concept that I explained yesterday was pretty much inflation. So we're not just facing a coffee market crisis, but the what you can purchase as a coffee farmer has gone down over time, obviously since the coffee market has not been adjusted. So yesterday I portrayed how 99 cents per pound is actually equal to around 22 cents per pound.
Get ready for another familiar voice. Scott Tupper of Yave took the stage soon after.
I'm very grateful to be here. I'm Scott Tupper. I'm the founder and CEO of Yave Incorporated. We are a blockchain marketplace which is connecting buyers and sellers of coffee from origin to roast and even to the level.
In between sessions, I was able to connect with coffee producers and other coffee people and get a glimpse of their thoughts on the forum. The energy during the event was high and people were excited to be connecting with other members of the coffee value chain. For me, it felt something like a family reunion, maybe more like pen pals meeting for the first time. I don't know. My illustrations don't always work. It felt connected. That's what I'm trying to say.
Hi to everyone. My name is David Solano, or David Solano. I'm a coffee producer. I'm actually in the top 10 of the auction today.
Congratulations. Which farm are you with?
Concepción Buenavista. So we are very proud of this because it's the first time we got into this auction type of events. I'm also a barista and a national barista championship. So it's very proud to be part in the whole chain of the coffee industry and see how people are getting more interested in Guatemalan coffee. So,
my name's Jesse. I'm with the Coffee Podcast. What's your name?
Francisco.
And what do you do in coffee?
Well, I'm a coffee producer and I'm also a coffee exporter in Costa Rica. And I'm in Guatemala enjoying this beautiful event and getting to learn about blockchain and getting to learn about what Scott is doing. And it's a new experience for me.
Excellent. And your name, sir?
My name is Rich.
And what do you do in coffee?
I am a coffee roaster and own a single cafe outside of Philadelphia called Poor Richard's Coffee Company.
Yes, we have a good time here. We are from El Salvador, coffee producer from El Salvador, and it's a good idea for coffee from Central America to have many opportunities to export and meet some roasters and buyers of coffee for this zone of America Latina.
Excellent. What's the name of your farm?
Finca Las Ánimas.
I am a woman and I export coffee in Santa Rosa, department of Guatemala.
Awesome. What are your goals? What do you hope to achieve here at the forum?
My goal is staying here is have a good price of my coffee, and I am so emotion because this opportunity is so awesome to be here, and you come is so excellent to be here.
My name is Jovita, is productor de Santa Rosa.
And just like that, the first day of the forum was over. It was time to get some rest and get ready for the next morning, which would mark the commencement of the first ever coffee blockchain auction. While the auction was going on, I snuck out to grab some of the sample coffee and a cafe had brewed for people to try. Apparently I was late to the party. The coffee carafes made that spitting sound they make when there's nothing but drops left at the bottom. I quickly found my way to the cupping room because I heard rumors there was still coffee to be cupped. I was late to that party too. But you know what? I cupped some cold coffees. And you know what else? They were pretty delicious still. I had made a special appointment to connect with another familiar voice. Alejandro Cadena of Carabella.
All right, Alejandro, it's good to finally meet you in person, and it's exciting that our listeners can hear your voice directly into a microphone this time.
Thanks for having me, Jesse. It's also nice to meet you.
Tell me, what has your experience been so far at the forum? Have you enjoyed yourself, and what kind of goals have you set while you're here at the forum?
Well, I really enjoy the forum. I think it's really nice that we have forums like this at origin countries as opposed to what's common to be at a consuming country full of roasters and very few producers. Here you see a lot more producers than roasters. I think it's great to have that interaction between the roasters and the producers. And frankly, we're just here to kind of support something that we believe in. We think this is the way to go forward. Having these forums where there's a lot more interaction between both sides of the chain and addressing the issues that the industry has and the challenges that we have in a more direct and personal manner.
Awesome. While I was interviewing Alejandro, the auction came to an end. I caught one of the producers and had a quick chat. Allison's doing some voice acting for this episode, and so she's going to do some here as well.
Nice to meet you. My name is Lucy McKinney. I'm one of the producers who's been around here for a while. I represent Finca Australia. I did participate in the auction for the first time in my life. I've been working with coffee for 33 years, and it's the first time I've participated in the auction to see how the experience is, how it feels to be a part of something like this. I'm very happy, even though I didn't get first place, but I'm in the top 21. I hope to compete in other auctions in the future, if I'm still alive. I started in 1991 when my husband asked me to start working at the farm, and I accepted. I started to learn about coffee, and as I really liked it, I'm still working with it, and it's the first time I've participated in an auction. It's going to be our 50th anniversary.
I was able to catch up with Scott post-auction to see what he thought about the auction.
All right, Scott, we are currently post-auction. Tell me, I want your personal perspective first. How do you feel? You've had a lot of work go into this over the last year. Just give me, how are you feeling? Are you kind of on cloud nine or what?
Yeah, I'm really excited, a bit cathartic. It's like it's such an event-based, momentary thing that it finally culminated and happened, and I'm just a little bit, it's surreal to me that it's actually, this dream came true, and we've had really great buyers step forward from around the world to buy these coffees. And we actually had 4 lots at around 85, which was making me sad that didn't get an auction bid. And then we had a buyer step up, 1 local and 1 international, to offer to get those coffees moving, which for me, that's what it's all about, is connecting the producers with market. And really, really excited about the results. The level of trust in something that's unproven historically, a new idea, I don't know, it's pretty moving to me that people were just willing to say, yeah, let's go for it. Let's put our best coffees there and do this.
So I know this is a really broad question, but for you personally, from maybe the perspective of Yave, does this feel like a success to you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I think we have, I was just doing Italian, I'm not finished yet, but we have over 7 countries that were winning bidders. And for us, it's, thrilled. Like, that's what a go-to-market statement for us, and what a statement from the industry that we're willing to try this and move these coffees and connect, really, your supply chain.
Were there any unforeseen challenges that you faced with the auction?
Oh, yeah. There were plenty of unforeseen challenges. For one thing, it was virgin territory for me, so it was our first auction. There are components about the way that we select lots, extremely strict regulations around humidity, et cetera, where we had to have some hard conversations with producers who had great cupping coffees, but were certain defects that prohibited them from being able to be commercialized in this sense. Yeah. So just little things. You wouldn't believe the amount of detail that went into this. So credit to Ana Cafe and Lulu for getting this all pulled off. But it's just been an amazing experience.
And there you have it. Just like that, the auction was over, and the day was pretty much summed up for me. There were many other very interesting talks held at the event, but I'm not going to cover those here. I want to turn our focus to Ivan. So I told you I wanted you to consider some things that Ivan says into the microphone. I want to take us back to the farm just 2 days before the auction. The group, Nino, Mafe, Hugo, Marta, Corey, Mike, Ivan, Ali, and myself were at the farm just 2 days before Nino and Ivan got into this really intense conversation about the relationship between coffee roasters and coffee producers. I'm going to voice act for Nino and translate, while Ali will voice act for Ivan and Mafe. I perfectly understand what you're saying. For you, it's really hard when someone says they would buy a specific amount of coffee and then the year after that they either don't buy any or they buy less than they did before. But what's more important is to be clear from the beginning. For example, this would be the requirements. On the roaster side, there has to be full transparency, for example, talking about quality.
Por ejemplo, en el término de la calidad. Por ejemplo, imagínate un año a vos.
One year, your coffee gives you 84, 85 points. And when you know that, you share that info with the roaster. Imagine next year you have an 82, 83, or if there was a lot of rain or anything like that, you also have to share that info with them. There has to be full transparency. And also, there has to be a commitment on the other side to see what's going to happen with that coffee. For example, maybe one year the harvest wasn't that good or whatever, or maybe the coffee was really good. I can give you compensation. Something interesting for you. But if the coffee isn't that good, I think there has to be a compensation. The price has to go with the quality. Think about the roaster. On the other side, he gets a coffee and he has to compete with it.
Just like we do.
As a roaster, that's what we look for. But with transparency and really talking, we can understand each other.
Con transparencia y realmente platicando te puedes entender perfectamente porque siempre hay.
There are things like climate change that are not in our hands, like rain. But if someone says there was a lot of rain, well, it doesn't matter. We can help each other, work together, which is what we see that you've done.
And the least we can do as roasters is say, well, I'll buy or I'll commit to buy X amount of quintales every year. And there has to be a contract or something written.
That's what we've done with Scott. We've talked a lot about quality. When Scott started buying from us, he started buying 83 points, and I told him, I promise you we'll get better. And that's what we've done. And this year we've got to 84.73, and he tells me these have been fast changes because we've tried to work as best and as fast as we can to do everything well. So what I tell him is, I'm doing everything on my side, and I know you are also, but I need to know we're on the same page. Because for me, for example, compensating someone, the people we've opened a bank account for, we've paid 50 quetzales to open the account. Those are expenses that I run on my own. All this doesn't cost 1 quetzal, it costs around 1,100 quetzales. It costs around 1,100. All of this doesn't cost 1 quetzal, it costs around 1,150 quetzales. So that is the part of the double life that is important.
Yes, and at the end is an alliance you have to make.
The problem is that I think that can work when you have an agreement. When there are other intermediaries, they won't think about what the roaster thinks or what the producer thinks. All he wants is to sell the coffee at a certain price, and that's it.
I think that at the end, what the roaster and the producer have to understand is that the client As a roaster, I'm not the client. I'm a connection. The client is the consumer, someone who stops by the cafe and buys a bag of coffee. At the end, we are partners more than anything, but there has to be a commitment.
Sí, es lo que the last week with the Onda Origins, the compromise.
The commitment was I would go to Seattle. I went to Seattle, we spent time with the companies that buy coffee from us, we went to Facebook, we visited other roasteries, markets, etc. So they could see the transparency and see where their coffee comes from.
Toda esa parte para que vean la transparencia y de dónde viene, pues.
Now, let's fast forward. I was able to meet with Yvonne right before I left Guatemala City to discuss some of these topics deeper. Here's our full conversation.
So I want to get part of your story for our podcast listeners because they're going to have the opportunity to listen to our travels with you. So I would like them to know your story.
My dad started the farm with his parents a long time ago in Santa Rosa de Lima. The name of the farm is Cieneguilla. My dad had to leave the farm for a few years to study in the city. When he graduated, he went back to the farm and also practiced his career.
Has your farm always produced coffee?
Yes, coffee and dairy cows.
Yes, I've had your grandmother's cheese and it's delicious.
Yes, thank you.
I wanted to ask, what varieties of coffee have you grown, and why did you choose the different varieties that you grow?
Well, we have a great diversity of varieties. We have the old ones, plants that are resistant to leaf rust, and we have new varieties, genetically modified, that we've used and that are more productive and resistant to rust, like cantamores.
You had told me the other day on the farm that selling your coffee has sometimes been difficult because of payment terms and not having communication from purchasers. Can you tell us a little more about that?
Yes. As producers, we don't have a direct connection or relationship with the roasters or the consumers. Something that makes the whole process more difficult for us because we have to sell to the C market in Guatemala because we don't have any contacts or connections outside of the country.
Is the C market price covering your cost of production, or how wide is the gap between cost of production and what you're actually getting paid?
It's almost 100%. The C market now is around 550 quetzales in parchment, and our cost of production is around 1,100 quetzales.
Yeah, wow.
If we don't get to sell, I'd consider talking about my farm that we just have a few years left of producing coffee. We have a lot of losses.
Wow. Yeah. That's sad because I've tasted your coffees. We tasted them 2 days ago and they were delicious.
Yes.
What would it mean for your family to leave coffee? How long has your family been in coffee? What would that mean?
To be honest, it'd be very hard. My dad is a doctor, but he only loves agriculture. Since he graduated, he's practiced medicine to sustain our coffee.
And you also are finishing your education for the same reason, correct?
Yes, this year I'm graduating as a clinical nutritionist. So going to university and studying is really important as we have different things and professions to sustain our coffee. To this day, I haven't figured out how to make it self-sustainable.
I had the pleasure of meeting Martin, who was very sweet. What do you hope for his future?
We'd like for Martin and Jimena to continue with our coffee tradition, that they can learn to work in our farm, to take care of the land, If we teach our children to value what we have, we won't lose our land, destroy it, or sell it.
If you could say one thing to coffee buyers, coffee roasters, if there was one thing that you wanted them to know and to think about, what would that be?
Take a look back at origin and take a look at all the hard work all agricultural workers do every day. They get up at 5 a.m. to work under the sun, in the rain. Value it. We work every day for them because we want to give them great quality coffee.
Hugo of The Fix in Madrid, Spain, and Corey of Little Owl Coffee out of Colorado, USA, wanted to share some of their closing thoughts about the forum.
Our goals were pretty simple. It was to meet producers, build relationships, get in front of farmers, taste coffee. Our experience was very enlightening, to say the least. It's always so complex when you go to Origin or speak with producers and farmers. You hear their stories, you begin to unravel what it's like in their daily lives, the struggles that they might be having on their farms or their crops, their yields not turning out as well as they had hoped. It's astonishing. We can get so caught up in cup scores or trying to innovate new harvesting or fermentation processes, when in reality, the farmers are worried if they're even going to be able to pay their workers. So it was very eye-opening. I guess a major takeaway I have is that building a sustainable relationship with your farmers and understanding their needs and being able to support them through thick and thin goes an extremely long way. Find out if there are any other products that you can buy from them to help support them, honey or other things that they grow on their farm. But all in all, it was a very humbling experience, and we were glad to be a part of it. We made a lot of connections with producers and have a better understanding of their side of the chain. I hope that they continue to do these producer roaster forums, because nowhere else in the world are you going to be able to get in front of so many valuable faces.
Hi, my name is Hugo. I'm one of the founders of The Fix, a coffee shop and roaster in Madrid. About my ideas and goals assisting to the PRF, basically was to make contact with producers and be able to establish relationships, business relationships with them, and in the near future be able to make direct trade. Also share with other coffee professionals and be able to exchange experiences and thoughts about our industry was very interesting for us. Going to the farm and exchanging with the coffee producers. Going to the farm was obviously our biggest goal in the PRF, and being able to do this was a really, really enriching experience for us. Did we learn anything unexpected? Well, yes, a lot of things, especially in the field of the farming and the coffee producing cost, and the way the people are struggling daily with many problems from climate change to economic. This was a major intake for us. The main takeaways we could take from the PRF was the valuable contact we made, like the producers, other coffee professionals, coffee roasters, baristas, and also we managed to make some friends, so we're very happy for that. Yes, I would love to say to the people that hear this podcast that I truly encourage them to visit coffee farms, and they will value even more the coffee they drink every day. And just once again, please don't buy cheap coffee. My goal for this series was to try and give you a personal perspective of my experience of Guatemala in the forum. I wanted you to feel some of what I felt there at Yvonne's farm, and there at the forum with all the producers looking for opportunities to sell their quality coffees for a good price. But more than anything, I want you to take away some of the things Yvonne said about her situation as a coffee producer, and really consider the implications that might have for you as a person with any kind of influence. The coffee price crisis is a real issue, and it must be addressed. We live in a truly global age, and so the opportunities for change are not like they've been in the past. Do you feel motivated to do something about this? Let me encourage you to act on that feeling by seeking answers. I hope our next series will provide some important information for you all as we dive into the hard topic of economic sustainability of coffee. Don't let the topic scare you. I have experts from all over coffee on this upcoming series to help break down the current coffee price crisis in terms we can understand and hopefully build actions around. If you like what you hear, please subscribe to the podcast on your podcast listening platform. That could be iTunes, Google, you name it. If you really feel jazzed about what we do here at the Coffee Podcast, please tell your coffee-loving friends to join the conversation. This episode was produced by me, but I had a ton of help from other coffee lovers. I want to give a shout out to Ana Valencia for all of her hard work translating large segments from Spanish to English for us. I want to thank Nino, Mafe, and Hugo for translating a lot of what was said on the farm during the trip. You did not hear much from Marta on the show, but she was also really great company on the trip and she deserves her own little shout out. I want to thank Allison for her voice acting skills. And I want to thank you for listening and supporting my work and for keeping the coffee conversations alive wherever you are. Catch us in late September for our next series. It's gonna be a doozy. Thanks for tuning in. And as always, and until next time, happy brewing.